Back to tonight's main news. And in the last few minutes, President Donald Trump and his wife Melania have boarded Air Force One bound for Saudi Arabia, where Mr. Trump will be attending a summit of Arab and Muslim leaders. This as a US airstrike hit Iranian-backed pro-Assad militia in Syria in an attack the Syrians denounced as flagrant aggression. Well, I'm joined now from Washington by Ali Shihabi, the Executive Director of the Arabia Foundation. And here with me in the studio is Dr. Sanam Vakil, Associate Fellow of Middle East and North Africa Programme at Chatham House. Welcome to you both. Let's start with you, Dr. Shihabi. So President Trump, during the campaign, as I'm sure you recall, at one stage said that Islam was the enemy. Then, of course, he's still trying to ban Muslims from 7 countries, although not Saudi Arabia, from travelling to the United States. And now he's going to Saudi, to the most sacred ground of Islam, to give a speech about Islam and the Muslim faith. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, I don't think a lot can go wrong. I think it's going to be very scripted. And I think the symbolism of the visit is extraordinary, really. He's come a long way from the hyperbole of the campaign. And I think the responsibility of office and the quality of advisors around him, the Secretary of Defense, Treasury, his National Security Advisor, have redirected, if you want, his thinking. And the fact that he's chosen Saudi Arabia as his first trip, well, obviously. I mean, why would he be coming to Saudi Arabia otherwise? So it's a huge step for an American president who usually goes to Canada or to Mexico or somewhere else to decide to come to the center of the Muslim world and not only meet with the King of Saudi Arabia, but then proceed to meet with a number of leaders who are part of the Saudi-led coalition against terrorism and give a speech on Islam. So I think the symbolism is extremely important, and he has to be given credit for that.
But to be fair,
there has been a move.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Barack Obama, I think, went to Cairo, didn't he, when he first took over in the White House and gave a speech about relations with the Islamic world. And then, of course, there is the American-Saudi arms deal, which his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has managed to concoct or help facilitate, worth, I think, $100 billion US. So there are some, and a few Trump hotels, I gather, as well. So there are some very good reasons for him to go to Saudi Arabia.
No, Matt. I mean, there are no Trump hotels in Saudi Arabia, and there are no Trump projects in Saudi Arabia.
But
so
there is the arms deal.
You have to be very clear about that. Well, there have been arms deals. Saudi Arabia, during the Obama administration, bought over $110 billion worth of arms. So Saudi Arabia has been buying arms from America for 50 years. So I think that there's a desire to highlight the arms purchases now, because those play a role in generating jobs in America, and the American mainland doesn't necessarily appreciate that. So there's a value to highlighting that, and as a president concentrating on jobs, he also wants to do that.
Okay, all right. I'll get back to you in a minute. Dr. Sanam Vakil, you heard all that, but also, as we heard from John in Tehran earlier, there is an election going on in Tehran today. There is a more moderate candidate versus a more hardline candidate. You've got President Trump in Saudi Arabia, the Sunni superpower in the region, and of course, he had the airstrike yesterday. Is this going to affect the Iranian elections, do you think?
No, but what is happening is a very slow, gradual confrontation between Iran and the United States, sort of erasing some of the progress that was made during the Obama administration. And we can see that Washington is looking to roll back Iranian influence in Syria, eventually Iraq, and working with the Saudis to do so also in Yemen.
But does this help the hardliners in Iran?
Well, the hardliners,
President Trump's rhetoric, and his visit to Saudi Arabia.
Well, the hardliners have tried to use the fear of President Trump's rhetoric and the fear of an ongoing confrontation to push back against Rouhani's plan for economic integration with the West and boosting economic investment from abroad, calling instead for a resistance economy and a more isolated and a more defensive Iran.
And just in one line, is there a real danger of polarization now? Iran versus Saudi Arabia, more polarization? Possibly Russia versus the United States in the region?
Well, right now, anything can happen. Things are quite polarized as it is.
Okay. Dr. Shihabi, let me put that to you as well. More polarization in the Middle East as a result of Trump in the White House, but also that Sunni-Shia divide that we're seeing all the time? Briefly.
Well, I mean, you could make an argument that the polarization increased under the Obama administration because in a way, the space that the Obama administration gave the Iranian regime allowed them to be more aggressive and hence be more threatening. I think if American supremacy and deterrent power is reintroduced in a strong way, and psychology plays a big role here, by the way. So,
Okay. Got to leave it there.
Increasing stability.
Okay. Run out of time. I'm really sorry. Dr. Shihabi, Dr. Vakil, thanks very much indeed.